is a real pleasure to see everybody here today. I'm Captain Rich LeBron, the 7th Fleet Chief of Staff, and I have the honor of being your Master of Ceremony for today. I would like to extend a special welcome to many of our honored guests. Deputy Director General Arima, City of Yokosuka Mayor Kamiji, Yokosuka City Council Chairman Ono, distinguished military guests including Admiral Yamamura, Vice Admiral Yuasa, Vice Admiral Sakai, Rear Admiral Choi, Vice Admiral Saito, Vice Admiral Ozama, Vice Admiral Furakawa, Lieutenant General Uchikuda, Lieutenant General Maeda, Rear Admiral Fukuda, Major General Bierman, Rear Admiral Dolaga, Rear Admiral Kim, Rear Admiral Engdahl, Rear Admiral Donnelly, Rear Admiral Fort, Rear Admiral Lati, Rear Admiral Nicholson, and many of Japan Navy Friendship Association members, including JANAFA President Shigioka, Retired Admiral Sugimoto, and Okasan. Welcome. And welcome to our afloat and tenant commanders, leadership, and command mass chiefs for attending today. Ladies and gentlemen, as you are able, please rise for the arrival of the official party and remain standing for the presentation of the color anthems and the invocation. Vice Admiral, United States Navy, arriving. Deputy Chief of Naval Operations, arriving. Seventh Fleet, arriving. Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force, arriving. Bosun, post aside, boys. Ladies and gentlemen, the national anthem of Japan, performed by Petty Officer Second Class Yukari Miyaki from Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force Band, followed by the national anthem of the United States, performed by Chief Musician Justin Glenn from the 7th Fleet Band.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Fleet Chaplain Father Daniel Mode will now offer the invocation.
Please join me in prayer. Eternal Father, you have guided the leadership of Vice Admiral William Merz in his service as Commander, U.S. 7th Fleet, and for that we are grateful. We know that you have called each of us by name for service. Vice Admiral Merz was truly called by you to serve in command and play hard. He has made our fleet a more professional force, effective force, and compassionate force. As the mantle of leadership is now passed to Vice Admiral Karl Thomas, bless and keep him as he assumes the duties and responsibilities of this command. Bless his wife, Junifer, and his son and daughter, Kyle and Megan, as they are warmly welcomed back to Japan. May Admiral Thomas be a servant leader who guides the staff under his charge, offers wisdom and experience to the commanders under his watch, and be a steady hand of discipline and vigilance to ensure that these national assets continue their legacy as a true and loyal friend of Japan, Korea, and our allied and partner nations throughout the Pacific, offering peace and stability to our region. As we have asked your blessing on these leaders, we also ask your blessing on this change of command. We ask all this in your holy and abiding name. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The remainder of the ceremony will be uncovered. The change of command ceremony is not prescribed specifically by U.S. Navy regulations, but rather is a time-honored naval tradition like many of the ceremonies and traditions of our Navy. It draws its origins from ancient customs and laws of the sea begun by seafaring men. The credit for preserving these customs belongs to Navy men and women worldwide who understand the importance of conducting themselves in accordance with the highest traditions of the United States Naval Service. By custom, this ceremony is formal and impressive, designed to strengthen the respect for authority so vital to every military organization. Mustering all hands, quarters, and publicly reading official orders stems from the days when movement of mail and persons was a very slow process. The change of command ceremony guarantees that all hands personally witness the official passing of authority between officers who are duly authorized to hold command. The ceremony includes the formal reading of official orders by the relieving officer and the officer relieved. Ladies and gentlemen, Vice Admiral William Merz will now introduce today's guest speaker.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Hello. First Chaplain Mo, thank you. You know you saved this soul, and it was a prickly one, so I appreciate the words. First, thank you all for attending, both in person and virtually. For our international friends, ohayou gozaimasu, annyeong hashim nika, and good day, mates. We had hoped to have this event outdoors, but as the timing of this change of command became more and more unclear, we got deeper into the epic rain and heat season. So if you look outside, I think we may have squeezed it in, but I hope you agree with our decision to hold it in the comfort of this fleet theater. I'd like to first thank the 7th Fleet and Seaface staffs for pulling this event together. I know you guys kept yourself in a three-point stance and on the edge of the pool, and it certainly paid off when the gun finally went off, so well done to you. I would also like to recognize those wonderful renditions of two great nations' anthems we have grown so accustomed to hearing and singing together. So thank you, Petty Officer Miyake and the JMSDF Band. Arigatou gozaimasu. And Chief Glenn and the 7th Fleet Band, please a round of applause for the singers. For my Japanese friends, watashi no Nihon no tomodachi no tame ni yokoso minasan. Kaijo jetai wo kero partnership wa arimasen. Dainana kantai to kaijo jetai ga issho nara totemo tsuyoi to sekai ni shomei shimashita. Ichimu arigatou gozaimasu. Kaijo jetai ni kansha shite imasu. Mainichi benkyou shimashita ga, mada skoshi shika nihongo ga hanashimasen. Demo, eigo wa mada kanari hanashimasu. Kokokara wa eigo de hanashimasu. Wakaranai tokoro wa ato de shero ni kite kudasai. Sensei Cheryl-san. Daijoubu desu ka? Hai. So back to English. Because we've had such little personal interaction really over the last 18 months, I think the timing worked and we agreed to illuminate this ceremony as an early opportunity to celebrate the continuing momentum back to normalcy. So in that spirit, we are fortunate enough to have with us here today 2 distinguished officers from both the U.S. Navy and the Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force. So I'd like to say a few words about these officers and then turn things back over to the Master of Ceremony, our 7th Fleet Chief of Staff, Captain Rich LeBron. So our guest speaker today is Deputy Chief of Naval Operations for Plans and Policy, Vice Admiral Phil Sawyer. Phil's from Phoenix, Arizona, and is a graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy, no stranger to Japan. He's a fellow submariner who has deployed out here on many occasions, knows these waters well, and has held a number of high-level positions both here and in Hawaii. Most notably, Task Force 74 here in Yokosuka, Task Force 54 in Bahrain, Commander of U.S. Pacific Submarine Force, and then as my predecessor as U.S. 7th Fleet. A close friend of mine and a dear friend of the region, there is arguably no one more versed or more experienced in the ways of this part of the world. Phil will be retiring at the end of this year, so it is an absolute honor to catch him first and have him here with us today. But before we bring Phil to the podium, we are equally privileged to have with us today the Chief of the Japanese Maritime Staff, Admiral Hiroshi Yamamura. Admiral Yamamura is a career surface warrior. He graduated from Etajima and the U.S. Naval Command College and is a native of Iwakuni, Japan. He commanded Escort Flotilla 4 and JS Minayuki. I am pleased to introduce Admiral Yamamura as our first speaker, and not only as the JMSDF chief, but much more so as a leader of us all as we further advance the efforts of 2 remarkable navies. He, among all others, has demonstrated the necessary courage and commitment required to pull our navies together for the needed multiplication of sea power. He's become a good friend with a number of humorous stories that probably would not translate well here, but maybe later on at the reception. So to start our program this morning, please join me in welcoming the 34th Chief of the Japanese Maritime Staff, Admiral Hiroshi Yamamura.
これから1時間しゃべります。I will speak 1 hour. First of all, I'm very surprised that this Army, Navy, Air Force, Japanese major commanders, please stand up. I think this is the first time for see the Army, Navy, Air Forces, the real warriors. Thank you for protecting Japan all the ways. Thank you for your introduction, Merz. Admiral Merz, Admiral Thomas, my old friend Admiral Sawyer-san, families and friends and other attendees. It's a great honor for me to deliver a speech at the change of command ceremony of the 7th Fleet Commander today. Today, I make my speech short so that I can be likable bad guy Yamamura-san for everybody. Throughout our history, the Japan Self-Defense Force have always worked together with the U.S. Armed Forces. The Japan-U.S. alliance is the cornerstone of Japan's security, and also an indispensable mechanism to realize a free and open Indo-Pacific. In particular, I'm very proud that the current security environment, Navy-to-Navy activities at sea, have become even more important. As the security environment becomes more severe on Korean Peninsula, in the East China Sea, and in the South China Sea, we believe strengthening the Japan-US alliance is even more important than ever before. Security issues important to both of our navies are increasing, such as the growing activity of Chinese Coast Guard ships around the Senkaku Islands and the militarization of the reefs of the South China Sea. Also, as emphasized in the Japan-US summit talks and the Japan-US 2+2, peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait are very critical, not only for Japan and the US, but also for the entire region. Under the circumstances, the Kaijo Jeitai is currently engaged in various activities for peace and security in line with the US Navy at all levels, from the deck plate to headquarters. I am confident that the strength of the relationship is unprecedented in quality and quantity. In particular, the cooperation between the 7th Fleet and the self-defense fleet has been very successful. This is thanks to the efforts and the cooperation of Admiral Merz. Also, his achievements are substantially thanks to his wife, Masa-san's devoted support. So please accept my sincere appreciation. Thank you, Masa-san. If describe all of his achievements one by one, it will take over an hour. Break my earlier promise. So I regrettably spare this part, but I believe the Order of the Rising Sun, Kyokujitsu Jukosho, conferred by the Emperor of Japan this past Tuesday, 2日前に旭日大綬章を重功章を受章されました。This illustrates all his accomplishments. Everyone, please give him a big hand again. 拍手をお願いします。おめでとうございます。But before concluding my speech, please allow me to share with you one story about how hard Admiral Merz worked. When I participated in a conference organized by the U.S. Naval War College, Admiral Merz himself enthusiastically explained a new operational concept to the professors and the staff of the 7th Fleet and the Kaijo Jeitai members, trying hard to make them understand it. He looked like a missionary promulgating a tenet all over the world. Joking aside. As I said earlier, the security environment in the Indo-Pacific region is very severe, and there are still many issues to be solved. Under such circumstances, Admiral Merz is leaving as commander of the 7th Fleet, and I feel kind of sad, as if my competent subordinate will be gone. But his successor, Admiral Thomas, has experience as OpenUp N3 and 5B, and as Commander Task Force 70. So he is knowledgeable about the security situation in the Indo-Pacific region and familiar with Japan-US cooperation. We are very happy to have him as Commander 7th Fleet here in Japan. However, in order to strengthen balance and the response capabilities of the US-Japan alliance, I myself will work hard together with Admiral Gildy, Admiral Paparo, Admiral Yuasa, and Admiral Thomas. I'd like Admiral Merz to do his best in the next assignment as a Pentagon prison, not only for US, but also for Japan, please. Lastly, I would like to express my sincere respect to my friends, members of the US Armed Forces in Japan, engaging in demanding missions 24/7. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, Vice Admiral Phil Sawyer, Deputy Chief of Naval Operations for Operations, Plans, and Strategy.
Yeah, I won't tell you what we were talking about over there. I find that my Japanese speech is not in the book, and therefore I'm going to have to pass on that portion. But it really is it's a pleasure and it's an honor for me personally to be on the stage up here with Admiral Yamamura. His presence, along with the many JMSDF and OB folks here in the audience, is a testament to the deep respect and friendship between the Japanese Navy and the U.S. Navy. So please accept, Admiral Yamamura, my deepest and most sincere appreciation for your attendance today and for your team's attendance today and for the strong alliance which we have. Welcome, friends and family, fellow flag officers, general officer, and sailors of the 7th Fleet and of the 4 deployed naval forces. Hi to Martha and Jennifer. Lisa says hi. And it is good to be back here to see so many familiar faces. It's even better than good to be back here to see the sailors of the 7th Fleet, the headquarters of the Navy's and our nation's Indo-Pacific 911 force. And best of all, it's good to be up here to be able to preside at a change of command between 2 superb officers that I've known and worked with for many years. So I thank Bill, KT, and Admiral Paparo for the chance to come back and speak today. And truthfully, I'm not sure what else I would have agreed to do a COVID test, get on a plane for 15 hours, and then walk around an airport and do another COVID test, other than change of command here in Yokosuka. But I'm very appreciative of the chance to do that. So, 7th Fleet operates the world's most consequential waters. It poses a collection of security challenges not seen anywhere else. Strategic competition with China, an increasingly assertive Russia, and an unpredictable North Korea, coupled with regional weather impacts, violent extremists, and most recently, the COVID-19 pandemic. And 2 years ago, I would have given you the exact same list of security challenges, except for COVID. And so on the surface, maybe a seemingly static situation, but far from the truth. And over the past 2 years, much has changed out here. Some changes we expected, some we didn't. A key to successfully navigating the changes, though, is leadership. And a team able to make the best decisions with imperfect knowledge. And I'm going to call out Bill several times through these remarks, and I realize he's going to give the preponderance of credit to the sailors and to his team, and rightly so, rightly so. But leadership matters, and it's leadership that enables great teams to perform great deeds, to best play the hand you're dealt. And the COVID pandemic was one of those things we didn't expect. In early 2020, the world had very little understanding of COVID-19. We weren't sure what it caused it, how it spread, or how to treat it. And then we had an outbreak on TR, which eventually resulted in the tragic death of 1 sailor. What many outside 7th Fleet don't remember is a Herculean effort by the 7th Fleet team made to protect the crew, resolve the outbreak, and get TR back operating. The effort was complicated, complex, and emotional, and just the start of a long journey for the world on how to combat the virus. Bill and his team developed procedures that allow the 7th Fleet to remain engaged, at sea, and executing the nation's tasking. It was a huge effort that actually informed much of the procedures that we use throughout the rest of the Navy. And I'd be remiss, and I don't even know if he's here, but to recognize the former Chief of Staff, Tim Rexroad, for his singular efforts during the TR outbreak and throughout the pandemic. And under 7th Fleet leadership, during the pandemic, when many were taking a knee, 7th Fleet didn't. They executed the mission without fail. And while we haven't yet defeated COVID, I believe the victory is within sight. And again, the 7th Fleet Team and the forward deployed naval forces Japan are leading the way for the U.S. Navy with a greater than 95% immunization rate. And while I am tremendously thankful and laudatory of the work done here on COVID, I think the work done here projecting a firm U.S. presence, strengthening our skills in the face of a strategic competitor, and maintaining and growing our long-standing international partnerships with our allies, friends, and partners is even more noteworthy. And when I say strategic competitor, I mean China. China is increasingly assertive. They are growing their battle force, building more ships, aircraft, and missiles, claiming to be a near-Arctic nation, claiming and staking claims in space. China is pressuring neighboring nations both economically and militarily. China continues to pressure Taiwan through increased air and maritime operations across the center line of the Taiwan Strait. And in the South China Sea, we see increased militarization activities, which creates more contested space and threatens the sovereignty of the region and undermines a free and open Indo-Pacific. China's actions against and undermining our partners and allies are serious. I believe by and large the whole U.S. government has come to realize the threat China poses, though many debate the timing. That's a luxury that can't be afforded to the 7th Fleet. You are the contact force. And Bill brought clarity, focus, and alignment to the forces here by developing and refining actions for them in case deterrence fails. He prioritized innovation and critical thinking. He was the enforcer of experimentation aligned with Fight Tonight fleet challenges, creating an environment of logic for both the sailors and the developers. He facilitated detailed planning of specific events that generated tangible outcomes for sensor, comms, and weapons employment. A number of capabilities being worked on or programmed for fleet introduction, and all within the well-defined roles of the Number Fleet Warfighting Scheme and Maneuver, which Admiral Yamamura discussed. A lieutenant who works for me said it this way, like only lieutenants can say it. If a fight kicks off, they know what they have and what to do. They understand their assignment. And that's critically important. That is the nation's 911 force here in the Indo-Pacific and the contact force, we know our assignment out here. This is exactly the work a forward-deployed fleet commander should be doing, and doing it while battling a pandemic and ensuring the man-trained and equipped function for the forces is, well, it's simply amazing. One of our most enduring advantages are our allies and our friends. No competitor can match it. It takes time, skill, and trust to cultivate good, long-term relationships. Conducting multilateral at-sea exercises to improve tactical skills or conducting bilateral operational level tabletop exercises are a must to build the trust and confidence. That trust and confidence manifests itself in many ways. Out here, one of them is the success of United Nations Security Resolution Enforcement in the East China Sea, run by a multinational watch team from the mighty warship Blue Ridge, with sea and air forces from 8 partner nations, like-minded countries pulling together for a common goal. This success is directly attributable to the leadership of the 7th Fleet team. Similarly, the blue-green work by Bill and Stacy Clarity from 3MEF leads the naval integration efforts desired by the CNO and the Commandant. I just wonder what more could have been done without COVID. In my current job in the Pentagon, I routinely talk with all the numbered fleet commanders. It's probably the best part of my day. It's usually a scheduled call or a VTC on some topic or other, but very often pop-up requests on something pressing occur. And without a doubt, most of my unscheduled talks with the fleet commanders have been with Bill. It's a myriad of topics, and invariably, He starts the conversation with, "What the heck are you guys in DC thinking about?" Or, "It sure would help out here if you did," and then fill in the blank. Truth of the matter is, he's almost always right. He's keen and insightful and all about solving problems or solving issues before they become problems. Bill, you've been a tremendous voice of reason and support, both up and down the chain of command, and your efforts will influence 7th Fleet and the Navy for years to come. Your leadership the last 2 years directly influenced our ability to defend and achieve the interests of the United States and our allies, and helped to ensure and maintain a free and open Indo-Pacific. All of us owe you a thanks and a congratulations on a job well done. And I know you and Martha have made great friends out here and become an integral part of the community. Enjoy some well-deserved time off in Maine, and then get to DC to relieve me. Our Navy is blessed. One superb officer leaves, another takes his place. I'm confident that KT will pick up right where Bill left without missing a beat. KT and I have worked together for about 4 years, and I truly suspect there's no officer better prepared to take over 7th Fleet than KT. Congratulations, KT. Jennifer, Kyle, and Megan, welcome. I'm sure you'll quickly get back to enjoying the Yokosuka that you knew and make it truly a fun and memorial time. It goes fast. Enjoy it. Lastly, to the sailors and their families of the 7th Fleet and the 4 deployed naval forces Japan, thank you for your service and your sacrifice. Godspeed and God bless. And now, Bill, if you'll join me.
Ladies and gentlemen, attention to the ward. The President of the United States takes pleasure in presenting the Distinguished Service Medal, Gold Star, and Lewis II Award to Vice Admiral William Merz for exceptionally meritorious service to the United States in a duty of great responsibility as Commander from September 2019 to June 2021. Vice Admiral Merz forged the Navy's largest forward deployed fleet into a potent warfighting force and transformed 10 disparate task forces into a cohesive cross-domain team working together to lethal effect. Despite the challenges posed by COVID-19 pandemic, he ensured the fleet met all of its commitments, maintained high operational availability, and contested all regional threats. By his superior leadership, wise judgment, and deep devotion to duty, Vice Admiral Merz reflected great credit upon himself and upheld the highest traditions of the United States Naval Service. Signed for the President, Thomas W. Harker, Secretary of the Navy, acting. You may now be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, Lieutenant Charles Garner will now present Vice Admiral Merz with a gift from the wardroom. Seventh Fleet Staff Command Master Chief Jeff Heinemann will now present Vice Admiral Merz with his pennant on behalf of the Chiefs Mess. This pennant was flown on the Blue Ridge during the historic, record-breaking 2020 Spring Patrol. Ladies and gentlemen, Vice Admiral Merz, Commander, U.S. 7th Fleet.
Thank you, Cots. Thank you, Admiral Sawyer, Phil. I'm back. Arigatou gozaimasu. Mata watashi desu. First, thank you for the team. Charles, where you ran off to, the wardroom gift. Master Chief, my battle buddy in so many ways. Certainly not necessarily, but very much appreciated. And I guarantee you they will hang in a place of honor in our house in Washington. So regarding my personal award, if there was ever a time when this award was a team award, this is the one. And I would like to point out that earlier in the year, the 7th Fleet Team, USS Blue Ridge, and Hilo Sea Combat Squadron 12 collectively earned the Meritorious Unit Commendation for the same body of work that supported this personal award. Can't separate them, couldn't have done it without them, and nor would I want it to. So if you could please give us a round of applause for the team that was behind all those awards. So this was certainly a year like none other, and there were a number of organizations and individuals who stood out as beacons for us all, and I would like to commit these remarks to recognizing them and their efforts. It's not so much that they stepped up, quite the opposite, actually. What they did during the immense challenges presented by the pandemic simply illuminated what they do for the fleet every single day. So these are the true professionals who play hard and get it done while still getting everything else done as well. So as always, I'd like to start by first thanking the 7th Fleet families, how you rationally conducted yourselves through the adversity you've seen was and continues to be truly remarkable. You set the high bar not just for other overseas U.S. communities, but for all people of all nations. I've always found that our spouses carry a higher level of maturity than us sailors, and thank goodness you do. You continue to provide the foundation for the fleet. You prove it every day, and I brag about you to everybody. For Martha, my absolute source of strength, as are our children, my daughter Carolyn, who was an ICU nurse in San Diego, saw so many lose their lives as she and her fellow medical teams did their part every day and provided us, the fleet, with the needed anecdotes for messaging and galvanizing our fleet message. And a big virtual hello to our 2 boys, Tom and Matt. Matt is currently at sea on the USS Seawolf. And my mother and father, brother Eric, sister Mandy, and our extended family across the United States. We all have our deeply held stories of perseverance and support over the last year. And I have mine as well, and nearly every sentence in those stories ends with friends and family. And for me, Martha. So for the 7th Fleet staff and the Blue Ridge team, what has always been a tenet relationship of us just riding you around, I would say over the last 2 years became a very close family affair. The important work of fostering relationships across the region has coined Blue Ridge in the past as the party ship of the Pacific. And that for those who know, partying on behalf of your country, well, it can be brutal. Yet we persevere nonetheless. However, when my doc passed me in the passageway and she mentioned to me, hey, I think there's a virus going around, followed by, shortly, our dramatic shift from our port-to-port routine to a new no port at all routine. And through that, we learned some things about what it truly means to be a command ship. So through the ensuing months at sea, nearly 200 days, with me aboard, we lost one of our helos, but thankfully recovered the crew. We reset every endurance record for the oldest ship in the Navy. We were the vanguard of our own bubble of Liberty ports, conducted 17 replenishments at sea, and that same helo detachment carried me to 13 different 7th Fleet ships at sea. And after that many visits, and again, demonstrating the agility of the fleet, I think they finally put a 300-mile keep-out circle around Blue Ridge so I couldn't reach them anymore. But through this all, Skippers Bo Sokola and Tim Waits established the new warfighting posture of the command ship, and we all became intimately integrated as a fleet at sea. And I can tell you, I certainly didn't expect to be earning my 10th sea service ribbon at this point in my career. So Skipper Waits, we had hoped to hold this ceremony aboard the Blue Ridge. And I know you would have supported, but we also know that it's just not good to disrupt her maintenance at this stage in her life. So as for 7th Fleet proper, this is our team of task forces, most of which we have here in the audience. This is the team that works hard every day at sea, under the sea, on the land, and in the air. So I'd like to take a minute to talk directly to them. Your resiliency and dedication and sense of humor is something of great worth and deserves recognition. Once we collectively developed our warfighting structure mentioned by Admiral Yamamura and Phil, known most as the warfighting scheme of maneuver, you commanders across the fleet quickly developed the procedures and tactics for your individual domains so we could come together as a cross-domain force. And this was just another series of efforts where COVID actually allowed us to focus within. So for Captains Eric Carell and Gareth Healy of our Expeditionary Task Force 75 in Guam, who own the most impressive collection of capabilities you could imagine, including, and proudly, an asphalt plant, if you must know. Thank you, Gareth, for all the hard work. Rear Admirals Jimmy Pitts and Butch Delaga of our Undersea Task Force 74 here in Yokosuka. This is the teeth of the fleet with their attack submarines. Thank you, Butch. Our new Surface Task Force 71 under Captain Steve DeMoss and Chase Sargent. The presence and endurance of our fleet 365 days a year with their iconic destroyers. Thank you, Chase. Our air power under our 3 Carrier Strike Group Task Force 70 commanders, starting with Karl Thomas, now relieving me today, and then Rear Admirals George Wyckoff and Will Pennington. And of note, Will adeptly has the task force currently in the 5th Fleet area, supporting the CENTCOM drawdown operations. Our Littoral Warfare Task Force 76 in Okinawa and Sasebo, led by Rear Admirals Fred Kacher and now Chris Engdahl, which is our most complex task force and often referred to as our mini fleet. So thank you, Chris, for that hard work. And the sustained air endurance of our Patrol Reconnaissance Task Force 72 under Captains Matt Rutherford and now Will Torson. This is the task force I rely on perhaps the most for access to other countries and overall situational awareness of the region. And perhaps my most critical, Task Force 73, our logistics fleet under Rear Admiral J.T. Tinch in Singapore, soon to be relieved by Rear Admiral Phil Sobek, who's here with us today, running an array of afloat gas stations and parts stores from here to Pakistan, keeping the fleet on the move. And finally, and rarely seen in the wild, our Special Forces support from Naval Special Warfare Group 1 in Coronado under Captain Chris Brown, who is also here with us today. So thank you, Chris. I'd also like to mention and thank 3rd Marine Expeditionary Force, or 3MEF, in Okinawa, under my brother from a different mother, Lieutenant General Stacy Clardy, and represented today here by 3rd Marine Commanding General Chip Bierman. Stacy and I shared many beers over VTCs as we advanced the ball down the field, establishing what we called 2 years ago the lost domain. We very much operate this fleet as a cross-domain force, able to come at you from any direction, horizontally or vertically. Well, the one domain we were missing was the maritime land domain, islands and choke points throughout the region. We have that now. Through a steady effort across the teams, adversaries now face the combined U.S. power of 7th Fleet and 3MEF. This is the blue-green naval force working together across the spectrum of peace and ready to work across the spectrum of conflict. So collectively, these leaders operate the 50 to 70 ships, 300 aircraft, and 60,000 sailors and Marines that is our forward naval force. So our motto here is to play hard, which simply means you must win with what you have, not what you wish you had. Turns out with this team, we have quite a bit. And they embrace the hard and play hard. So how about a round of applause for the 7th Fleet and 3MEF teams? So the task forces are the hand of power. The glove they fit into is the 7th Fleet Maritime Operations Center, or simply the MOC. It's both a process and a thing, but above all, it is the structure and the heartbeat for the operations of 7th Fleet, and it normally resides deep within the USS Blue Ridge. So built by my predecessor, Phil, our guest speaker, and first his and then my Chief of Staff, Tim Rexroad, the MOC has matured into the highest functioning in the Navy. It's how the fleet efficiently moved in and around the region in harmony with our allies and partners, staying well ahead of our adversaries. It has worked well because it's working every day, under the watchful eye of our MOC Director, Captain Ray Stromberger. I tell you this because 7th Fleet staff is a MOC organization and only a MOC organization. So to highlight our MOC is to highlight the men and women of 7th Fleet and to pat them on the back. The MOC team has also been exceedingly agile, such as when we pointed it at the Theodore Roosevelt, as mentioned by Phil. So this recovery from COVID in Guam focused on an unseen enemy with no playbook, a ton of anxiety, and at a time the whole world was trying to figure this thing out. And I'd say the lessons from which the whole world continues to benefit. The first successful large-scale recovery that included setting up distribution centers in 3 countries, establishing our own airline to transmit COVID tests to a variety of labs, building 2 hospitals, and somehow unconsciously establishing a level of expertise in hotel management. And I see Tim Rexroad shaking his head up and down over there. Or am I just throwing you into a fit? So what we really do with these, hope these are useful skills after we leave the Navy. So while the Theodore Roosevelt, with the Theodore Roosevelt, not only did the MOC efficiently handle perhaps the most complex coordination, communication, civilian and military operation I've seen in my 35 years, it also at the same time sustained the operations of the ships and aircraft I just mentioned a moment ago, and we had it in constant motion throughout the region. Not a beat was missed, and that was remarkable, and directly in the face of the growing threats to the region. The team actually increased our pace of fleet operations. No one did that, anywhere, US or otherwise. And none of this would have been possible without our shoreside support. The constantly moving continuum from our host nation cities of Yokosuka, Iwakuni, Sasebo, Atsugi, and the island of Okinawa. And then moving through our shoreside fleet activity commanders and then onto our ships, submarines, and aircraft squadrons. It was simply the safety net, the backstop, and the magic that kept the ships moving uninterrupted. On a weekly drumbeat, my friend and neighbor, Rear Admiral Brian Fort, here in Japan, soon to be relieved by Rear Admiral Karl Thomas, John Manoni and now Ben Nicholson in Guam, Buzz Donnelly in Korea, and JT Tinch in Singapore would continuously align with the fleet to ensure we stayed well ahead of the trends. So when asked how we accomplished so much in spite of COVID, we've learned we've actually accomplished so much not in spite of COVID, but because of COVID. It made us stronger, it made us more efficient, and it made us tougher. On that note, I would like to recognize 2 local heroes to whom we owe so much just in a normal year, but singularly in a year like we just had. The first is our newly re-elected mayor of Yokosuka, Kazuaki Kamiji-san, and his wife, Sanea-san. Please. So the balanced spectrum I just discussed just would not have been absent his support and continuous communication. The pressure he withstood was immense, and we are fortunate to have his leadership outside the gate. So thank you, Mayor, and congratulations on your next term. Arigato gozaimashita, omedetou gozaimasu, soshite, tagame, arigato. Our other hero is Oka-san and Sister Azumagawa-san, whose tireless efforts to maintain U.S. Navy and Yokosuka harmony over so many decades was presented the opportunity to pay for itself, and it did in such a powerful way. Many have heard the term, you cannot search trust. It must be earned over time. Well, Oka-san is living proof. Thank you from all of us over all those years. Oka-san, domo arigato gozaimasu. So please. I'm nearing the end here. So for our partners and allies right here in Yokosuka, my counterparts, Vice Admiral Kusui, Vice Admiral Yuasa, their staffs, and the community led by our JNAFA friends and the OBs, it's a special privilege to live and work in Japan. and I am comfortable saying we moved mountains in bringing JMSDF and 7th Fleet to a new level of interoperability as one fleet. The two Vice Admiral leaves from the Republic of Korea Navy, represented here today by Deputy Fleet Commander Rear Admiral Che and Rear Admirals Meade and Hammond from the Royal Australian Navy, are steady partners that the 35 regional maritime nations rely upon for the freedom and openness of the Indo-Pacific, all in close dialogue with our 7th Fleet engagement team led by Captain Mark Asuncion. We conducted so many operations with these teams, and although we may not be at war, we are not entirely at peace either. And we're not at war because of the efforts of this unified, combined team. A few other players I must note who kept us on track through these challenges are Fleet Surgeon Captain Chris Sears, a 5'1" pile of gray matter who became our COVID sensei. Our JAG, not much taller, Katie Pasetta, and our PAO, Rhianne Momsen, Chaplain Captain Dan Mode, and his partner in crime, our Command Master Chief Jason Haka, who these two men essentially stood up their own destructive behavior task force ahead of the train we knew was coming and actually improved sailor performance despite the stress of the pandemic. Cheryl Faber and Young Cha, our Japanese and Korean hometown favorites who so efficiently coordinate our dialogue, and because of them, what used to take years now takes only days and weeks. So thank you both. And of course, thanks to my enlisted aide, Senior Chief Lyons, who's personally responsible for my personal COVID-19, and my personal staff. I don't thank you enough, but your resiliency and patience I very much appreciate. I would be dysfunctional without you, and Martha knows exactly what I mean. Our two chiefs of staff, Tim Rexroad and Rich LeBron, make no mistake, they run the fleet. The devious brilliance of our intel officer, Captain John O'Connor, and finally my deputies, Rear Admirals Ted LeClaire and Bob Clark. These two men shaped the thoughts and the efforts of nearly every successful endeavor we pursued as a fleet, but more importantly, stayed inside my head and kept me out of my head. And finally, my bigger bosses, Admiral Aquilino, now Admiral Paparo, and their Director of Maritime Operations, Rear Admiral Mike Boyle, whose confidence and support fully enabled and fully unleashed the largest forward deployed fleet in the world. And this, my friends, is where I will finish. There's little more I can say than it's been an honor and a privilege working with these tremendous Americans, our tremendous partners, and the greatest fleet in the world. And a fleet I certainly would not pick a fight with. Karl, I could not be happier to whom I am turning over this wonderful team. I too welcome back you and Junifer. I also welcome back Megan and Kyle, home for the summer from University of Oregon and University of Colorado, and our best wishes to Nate, currently in flight school. So please count me as a resource going forward. You'll find quickly this fleet takes a village. So thank you all for coming. This has been a great honor. Onjitsu wa o koshi kudasari arigatou gozaimashita. Kokakara koi ni zonjimasu. Play hard. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and attention to orders.
Karl, I'm just glad you didn't run off when Phil laid out what you're actually walking into. I will now read my orders. Buford's orders 1986 to Vice Admiral William R. Merz, when directed by reporting senior, detach as Commander, United States 7th Fleet. Report to the Pentagon for duty as Deputy Chief of Naval Operations, Plans and Strategy, N3 and 5, Office of the Chief of Naval Operations. Vice Admiral Thomas, I am ready to be relieved.
I will now read my orders. Buford's orders 2021 to Vice Admiral Karl Thomas, when directed, report to Commander 7th Fleet as his relief.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 53rd Commander of the U.S. 7th Fleet, Vice Admiral Karl Thomas. Please take your seats.
Ohio Gazarmas, and what a privilege it is to be standing among so many friends, partners, allies, and teammates. Deputy Director General Arima, Mayor Kamiji, City Council Chairman Ono, Admiral Yamamura, and all the admirals and generals of the Japanese Armed Forces, Vice Admiral Merz, Vice Admiral Sawyer, Major General Bierman, Admiral Che, the wonderful JNAFA members are so important to maintaining our strong ties. Okasan, it's great to see you again. Task Force Commanders, 7th Fleet staff, distinguished guests, and friends. Jennifer and I are just absolutely thrilled to be back among so many friends in such an important region of the world in such an important time in history. Bill, thank you for what you and Martha have accomplished these past few years during a challenging time here and around the globe. You led this team with inspiration and with vigor and advanced the combined team's naval integration and warfighting expertise while strengthening our relationship and bonds throughout the entire theater. You've been the absolute right leaders at the right time, and Jennifer and I look forward to furthering your fantastic progress. It's great to return to Japan and lead our forward-leaning sailors and task forces to integrate with our allies and partners like never before. You've set a remarkable bar, and I'm honored to follow in your footsteps. Vice Admiral Sawyer, I'm not sure I can really be able to ever call you anything else, except for maybe boss. It goes without saying that I wouldn't be standing here today without his support and his mentorship. He was a fantastic commander of 7th Fleet, and he allowed me to command Task Force 70, but it wasn't really until I got a chance to go back to the Pentagon and work in adjoining offices as his deputy that I really appreciated Admiral Sawyer's insight and his wisdom. Thank you, sir, for promoting me this morning and for the graduate education these past 4 years. Please give our best to Lisa and smooth sailing as you move on in your next adventure. Thank you for all you've done for our Navy and for our nation, especially the strong alliance that you fostered and galvanized with the Kaijo Jeitai. This is oddly and pleasantly very familiar. Less than 2 years ago, my family and I left Yokosuka and wondered if we'd ever serve our Navy in this spectacular country again, though I certainly hoped that we would. I chose not to climb Mount Fuji, even though I had the chance. Yuasa-san, you were correct, sir. Thank you. Admiral Yuasa and I enjoyed a strong bond between Fleet Escort Force and Task Force 70. And here we are again working together as teammates and as friends. That is but one aspect of the magic and the strength of serving in our two navies. What a privilege it is to serve with you again, Yuasa-san. In Jeju, South Korea, during the 2018 International Fleet Review, I sailed Ronald Reagan into that island's strategic harbor and sat down for discussions with Rear Admiral Che and his First Fleet team. I'm excited to continue working with our South Korean teammates, and specifically with you, Admiral Che. Thank you for attending today's change of command. Your presence is particularly important and a great step towards strengthening our combined capabilities and our close friendship. This theater is complex and requires all of our allies, partners, and teammates, to include our NATO allies, to work as one, seamless, high-functioning joint and combined team. Together we represent a supremely credible and integrated naval force that allows us to prevail in strategic competition with China or any other nation, and thus bolster the free and open rules-based international order that has enabled this region to grow and thrive in the face of an assertive China, a destabilizing Russia, and other authoritarian regimes. To the men and women of 7th Fleet, I will give you my absolute, undivided support and focus to ensure that we maintain the forward-leaning posture of continuous presence, which provides the security and stability in this region, a region that you have delivered on day in and day out for nearly 8 decades. To my family who is present, Jennifer, Kyle, and Megan, my other son Nathan, Ensign Thomas, who's working hard to earn his own wings of gold, thank you for all your love and support. throughout the many years of this Navy adventure. I know you're so excited, as am I, to be back in Japan once again. I so enjoy watching your spirit of adventure at the opportunities that once again await. Only one more day of ROM, and you can begin your exploration. Jennifer, you in particular, have been by my side throughout this entire ride, and I wouldn't be standing here today without your encouragement. I'm so very proud of all that you've done to support the families these past 28 years, and I know this assignment will give you an even greater opportunity to continue fulfilling your passion. Thank you for being my rock and for staying such a positive force. Thank you to the 7th Fleet Band, the side boys, the color guard, the vocalists, and the staff behind the scenes that made this ceremony possible today. You all did a fantastic job and made this truly a memorable event with the right amount of flair. Admiral Merz, thanks again to you and Martha. You've built a winning team, and Jennifer and I are so very fortunate to inherit your efforts. I know you'll continue to be a force to be reckoned with as you storm the halls of the Pentagon. Chief of Staff, take charge of the staff and carry out the plan of the day.
Aye, sir.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the benediction and remain standing for the departure of the official party.
Please join me in prayer. Eternal Father, thank you for our new commander, Vice Admiral Thomas. Give him every grace and blessing this day and this day forward. As Vice Admiral Merz completes his dedicated leadership to the 7th Fleet, bless and keep him and his wife Martha. Let your light shine upon them and give them every grace as they seek to continue to do your will and follow your path. May they always remember with fondness and pride the service they have given to our country, our Navy, and our fleet. May the enduring friendships they have formed throughout the Pacific region, and especially in Japan and Korea, continue to be a source of blessing and joy. During his many tours of duty and command on land, sea, and under the sea, he has always been a steady and wise leader, a loyal officer, an outstanding witness of honor, courage, and commitment. Heavenly Father, continue to guide and bless Admiral Merz as he continues his service to our Navy in Washington, D.C. We ask this in your holy and abiding name. Amen.
Bosun, post the side boys. The official party will now depart. Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force, departing. Vice Admiral, United States Navy, departing. Deputy Chief of Naval Operations, departing. Seventh Fleet, departing. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the ceremony. Thank you for being here today. Admiral Merz and Admiral Thomas cordially invites the guests to the reception ceremony following departure. It'll be at the Officers Club.